back in the late 80s and the beginning of the 90s, there was an individual in the US by the name of Rashad Khalifa. He was the one who claimed that he had found the mathematical miracle of the Quran, the miracle of 19. When he first started to propagate it, his claim that the number 19 was at the root of a huge mathematical system in the Quran. Everything related, multiples of 19 or divisible by 19 or related to 19, one way or another. People in North America, because he made this claim in North America, it was based in Tucson, Arizona, immediately jumped at this. Because this was in the 70s, when computers were just in the process of being developed. And here, this new invention, the computer, was proving mathematically that the Quran was a miracle from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam could not possibly have placed these mathematical complexities in the Quran himself. No way. So people opened arms to Rashad Khalifa, an Egyptian professor in geology. And so he was taken around the US touring, maybe even came up here to Canada, and gave talks on the miracle of 19. People were greatly impressed. And he put together some books on the miracle of 19. One of them, the Quran, the final scripture, and a number of others, where he's arguing about the 19 being the root of the mathematical miracle of the Quran. Of course, he takes some obvious things like the Basmala, consisting of 19 letters. And he takes certain chapters, like the chapter Qaf, and shows that the letter Qaf occurs in that surah a multiple of 19 times. Qaf is a short surah, and it's easy enough to calculate or to count the number of Qafs there are in the surah. But then from there, he asks people to make the leap of faith to believe that Surah Al-Baqarah, in Surah Al-Baqarah, Alif, Lam, and Mim are found in the surah all multiples of 19. And when you add them all together, of course, it's all a multiple of 19. This was his claim. Now, nobody has the time to sit and try and count all the alifs in Surah Al-Baqarah, or the lams, or the memes. So they say, okay, well, based on the fact that the number of qafs in Surah Qaf, it does. We can see them and count them, and it is a multiple of 19. So therefore, we assume that the rest must be the case also. And in the process, for Surah Al-Qalam, which begins with Noon, wal-qalami wa ma yasturun. Noon at the beginning by itself. People didn't notice that in the Quran which he published with this translation, he wrote the letter Noon as Noon, Waw, Noon. So the letter Noon, remember in all of the other Qurans, we have the letter Noon. But in his Quran, he writes out the name of the letter, Noon. Why did he do that? He did it because if you add up all of the noons in the chapter Al-Qalam, it's not a multiple of 19. It's one noon short. So he manipulated the first noon and wrote it noon wa nu, and said, in early manuscripts, they used to write it this way. Of course, there's no early manuscript in which it's written this way at all. It was just a lie. But who knows, who amongst the common people have seen the early manuscripts to know that, in fact, yes, there are different writings and things were written differently and from how they're written today. So this was his claim. And of course, this is a huge step. In doing that, he actually changes the text of the Quran. This is something small, actually, in relationship to whatever else he came with, because by 1989, after saying that there were some false verses in the Quran, that they had to be removed. Why? Again, because they messed up with his multiplication story. And then he claimed, by 1989, he claimed that in fact he was a prophet of Allah. His miracle was the 19 by 1998. But in the beginning, Muslims embraced him. They loved him. They took him all over the place. Here he was. Proof, scientific proof for the miracle of the Quran. And this pattern is not a new pattern. If you read about Ghulam Ahmed, the founder of the Qadiani movement, known as Mirza Ghulam Ahmed, he started off as a defender of Islam also. In the newspapers in India, he used to write defenses, refuting the Christian missionaries, etc., etc. In the end, he ended up claiming he was a prophet of Allah. So this is not a new incident or a new process. Anyway, Rashad Khalifa, actually in the early stages, before he actually claimed prophethood, when he was taken around and given all of this popularity and promoted, he attended a conference in North Africa. And in that conference, he announced to the people that using his 19 multiples, he was able to identify the day the world would end. In his book, he says, the 7 pairs, verse 87, chapter 15, refers to the 14 sets of numbers that add up to 1,709. The number of years from the time of this Quranic revelation to the end of the world. See the book, The Computer Speaks, for details. He further stated, we can clearly see that the end of the world as set by the Quran will be, by Allah's will, 309 lunar years or 300 solar years after the year of the discovery of the 19. This means that the year following 1709 Hijri will be the last year of the world. The year 1710, this is a multiple of 19. As a result of his claim, one of the leading scholars of the time, Sheikh Abdullah ibn Abdul Aziz ibn Baz, wrote a fatwa declaring Rashad Khalifa to be an apostate from Islam. Anybody who makes that claim automatically puts himself in the same category. I'm not going to say that everybody becomes an apostate who makes that claim, but you can see the context. So this becomes very important when we consider a very popular individual in our midst today by the name of Harun Yahya, whose actual name is Adnan Oktar. He had a series of interviews back in 2009 on Vatan TV and Temple TV in April 2009, in which he clearly states there that the world will end in 1545 Hijri, or 2120. 2120. This is his claim. And he quotes a popular Islamic reformer in Turkey by the name of Said Nursi, who made statements along this line. And he deduces his calculations also from the writings known as Al-Maktubat of Hazrat Rabbani. This is a Naqshbandi Sufi saint, which people of Turkey hold very highly. But the end result is that he claims clearly there that the world will end in 2120. So this is a danger sign. Once we see people making these kind of claims, taking it back, arguing from hadith, even if it is from hadith. And when you go and look at the assembled material that he's used, he brings hadith, but of course these are weak hadith, fabricated hadith, not found in the classical books, etc. But regardless, even if somebody brings to us today any hadith which says that the world will end in a particular day, we should reject it automatically. We should reject it automatically. Because Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was unable himself to identify the date the world would end. So it means nobody after him can. And nobody before him could, and nobody after him can. So, this may be added to my warnings concerning Harun Yahya. He has other issues about which we have to be careful, but this is also a very serious issue among his issues. So, the call of the disbelievers in verse 48 to establish for them the time of the hour, we said first and foremost was an illogical call. They're asking something they know we cannot respond to. And they really shouldn't ask it because they know we have no control over coming into this world or the time that we die. So the time of resurrection, if it is going to take place, and we believe it will be beyond our capacity to know.